we can see first the answers, and secondly, the results in the first and second round. As you can see in the screen, hopefully you can see in the screen the pie charts.
Yes, we do.
Okay, thanks. You can see in the left side there is the first try results of the first try of the polling questions, and on the right side the second try. Well, the first question was related to whether the bins undergoing a counting and controlling exercise will be, let's see, freeze.
The charts again, your desktop.
Excuse me?
We don't see your charts.
You don't.
Your desktop
No?
again.
Oh, okay. It was visible. Yeah.
I can see it.
Yes, we see it.
Yeah, Elena, it's okay?
Yeah, it's there.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks. Okay, so well, the first answer was obviously was true. It was true that the selected bin undergoing through a counting and controlling exercise will be, let's say, not allowed to have any movements whatsoever. So in the first try, 75% of you guys, picked the correct one. You could see in the second try, all of you, 100%, selected the good one. Although the number of responses in the first and second try are not comparable, because we have over 30 in the first try and a little bit over, I think it's 22 in the second try. But at least we can compare that, the message was, duly conveyed in a way. The second question is related to the roles, which are the main roles involved. Initially, well, it was difficult, especially if you were not acquainted with the process. Of course, it was a kind of like a wild guess. Of course, you could pick out the budget user, probably, nothing to do there, and some financial accountant. But in any case, the majority of the answers were in the first try, in the good direction, let's say, this orange part, which was warehouse senior user, warehouse user, and property control user. Whereas in the second try, most of you identified the good one, which is the orange, the second option, right? Although 3 of you still selected the first option, which was warehouse senior user, physical verification planner, and inventory senior user. But it was the second one, which is the good answer to that. So let me go back to that one. Okay. So at the end of the day, what we want to check with you is just after the session went through. So well, we are happy to see that the results improved, right? In terms of the sequence. Although it was not, if you're not familiarized with the process, this is the typical question of the multiple choice that is kind of tough, right? Because if you are not familiarized with the process, you don't know what comes after or before. But still, 75% in the first try were okay with they did okay selecting the fourth option, which was create physical inventory document, conduct the count, enter the results of counting and posting the differences, right? In the very high level overview, this is the sequence that we were looking for. Good answer rate in the first try, and a better answer rate even in the second try. Only one person didn't pick the good one, so there was those are good results. Then the second set of questions, first one is a recount can be done after counting and controlling exercise. Most of you selected that yes, of course you can do it. And in the second try, all of you identified the proper answer. So that's good news. For the fifth one, this was a little bit more complex, or you could understand it in different ways, but let me read it out. The counting and controlling exercise is finished in the warehouse. Some differences are found where those differences will have an impact. Well, the first option was in the commitment items of the PIDs. Second was inventory. Third, in the total financial value of the warehouse. And then fourth, none of the above. Well, I mean, the concept was such a financial value of the warehouse. It's something that we haven't actually covered, and it's not even existing from the, let's say, Umoja point of view. But so we should pick that out. Of course, the commitment items, they don't. It's a budget master data element, so it's never impacted by accounting and controlling exercise or anything happening in the inventory module. So the correct answer was inventory as a whole, as you saw. Obviously, there is an impact in the warehouse in the sense that the quantities of the available items may change, right, after the counting controlling exercise. But in terms of impact, where those differences have an impact, as we went through in the presentation and even in the with the T codes at the end of the exercise, we post all those differences in the warehouse and then in the inventory, right? But from the value point of view, it's the inventory the one impacted. Then if we did give an option of a warehouse inventory and then another will be a warehouse, that would be tricky. But as you don't see warehouse in the set of responses, the obvious one will be inventory, right? You did a bit better in the second try, let's say, roughly, but still, I mean, I would expect a little bit more second options here in the second try. So just for the sake of clarity, the differences will have an impact in the warehouse, of course, in the number of available items, but of course, at the end of the day, in inventory, posting the differences, because that will create a material and a financial document down the road. Okay, just for the sake of clarity.
Daniel, sorry, but I disagree with this interpretation. Though it's it's your baby, but it's just have a little laugh. No, because I thought about it, but because the two transactions are distinctive, warehouse and inventory, so it's a really tricky question. But the answers inventory is not that obvious from my point of view. Yeah, sorry, but again, it's just to have a little laugh on it.
No, I think you've got a point there, of course, because especially if you have here none of the above, right? Because if we had here the inventory and then warehouse, then that will be the proper question. So I totally agree with you. That's why we tend to be transparent, and if this was a tricky question or it is a tricky question, it's good that you pointed out. I think it will be better. I mean, obviously, this is not something for you to be assessed, and we are not actually, the responses are totally anonymous, so don't worry about it. But I think it will be better to have inventory and warehouse, and then that's for sure the impact, because we went through the exercise and we saw how the property control user is actually posting those differences in the warehouse and then in the inventory. So I totally agree with you, and it will be better to have both options as a response. That's why exactly in the first and second try, we don't see actually a huge difference, right? So thank you for that, Gianluca. And so I disagree with myself and agree with you. So last but not least, in cases where the quantity physically counted is more than system quantity, what happens with inventory? Obviously, the inventory is increased. So the green answer will be the good one. You can see that after the session went through, most of you agreed with that part. So I mean, still none of the above here worries me a little bit, because but in general terms, I see that there is some sort of improvement in generally, except for question number 5. For the rest, it's okay. So at the end of the day, what we want to see, it's not like perfect score, because we are all humans, but at least the trends are going okay from the first and the second try. Especially I'm focusing on the people who've never seen this. It's the first time they're hearing about counting controlling on some other concepts. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Yes, Nico.
Just to add something on this issue, there are some movements at bin level that let cancel an inventory record previously open. That is the addition. I mean, if something is added into a bin previously counted, is a count that needs to be done again. And if in a particular bin has been done a change of product ID and an inventory count was open, is again an inventory count that needs to be done again. Those two particular action delete your previous actions.
Okay. Thank you for clarification. Exactly. So yeah, in those two cases, you will have to recount again in order to make sure that that PID change or that addition is correctly accounted for. Okay, so thank you very much, Nico, for that. That's what we need you guys to follow and share those comments, because that's why we can reach all these sessions. So I'm happy that we took only the morning part, and then we have time for practicing. So if we don't have any more comments or questions, I leave the floor to Brian. So we see what to expect during the PM.
Aspetta un attimo, non capisco niente.
So over to you, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Nico and Gianluca. If there are any other comments on maybe the questions or some topics we covered but may not be that clear, now's the time to address them. I know we wanted to leave the afternoon session for support maybe on the exercises, but since today is dedicated to counting and controlling, if there's anything else you want to mention, any other questions that have had no answer or real life scenarios that you guys would like to bring up, let's discuss that first. And then we can jump into maybe some review on the exercises. And I'll explain shortly how I would like to handle that. Anything more on Daniel's presentation?
It's Joe here. Okay, in the ideal scenario, like in Brindisi, I think everything would be perfect. But we know that the reality would be something different, especially the second count and first count and people moving stuff around. So when it comes to liquidation, for example, with people doing one job and then they lose their job and then somebody else trying to pick up the pieces, we see all sorts of issues with this cycle count, I can tell you, especially in downsizing and liquidation.
I'm sure. Actually, one of the things, we did a refresher session on this. I can't remember exactly when, if it was maybe the fall of 2019, where we were discussing that a lot of the pending transactions are actually discovered through this counting and controlling process. That's when people realize how many things are still pending to come in through inventory or outgoing through a goods issue or something like that. So this process, although it was covered shortly in the morning session, it really does have a big impact, not only in pending transactions, but also in what's coming afterwards, right? Some write-off transactions. And like we said, and maybe in Brindisi, it's an easy thing. People keep count and everything is clean and the books match what's in the inventory and warehouse. But in the mission, and when you guys go to Darfur, you're going to realize that that's not the case. And that's when we're going to find a lot of the inventory that is missing. And how to deal with each specific scenario may be an entire story on its own. So if there's anything else to share. Sorry, was that you, Joe?
No, I was just going to say, Robert Kirkwood, when we were working in the Ivory Coast when we were liquidating, he came out with a very good saying. As you downsize, the grass grows longer and longer and longer. Then when you cut the grass, you find all the crap.
Nice one.
Yeah. And just for the share of, how you can expect to find, getting back to the example that I mentioned before on UNAMID, when we were there, remember, Brian, there were dozens of vehicles just disappearing, right, in the mission. So if a vehicle, which is a huge physical element that you can difficult to maneuver with, especially if you are in the middle of the desert, if those things disappear, I can only imagine how difficult it must be to track down, different spare parts, small pieces of IT equipment, cabling, and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's going to be a difficult exercise, not in terms of liquidation, because as Joe said, in the mission, it's another beast itself. It's not Brindisi, it's not Valencia, it's not in a skew. It's another beast with another casuistic and another situation. So yeah, we have to be prepared for the worst. But it's at the end of the day, it's difficult to really be compliant with all these different cases and casuistics from the teaching point of view, because I remember that we do have an audience that is not fully, acquainted with most of these business processes, or at least with all the business processes. So at least we, at least make sure that everyone is okay with the happy flow. The different sequence of elements, and everyone understands. And we will deal with the reality the best we can when we are deployed and we see how things are done in the field. But yeah, definitely, that's another story when you go there.
Daniel, Brian, just to be clear, don't misunderstand me. What I'm saying, of course, we appreciate everything you're doing the last week and this week, and how the process is, and find out the pitfalls and what to do and where to look and so on and so forth. But of course, it's normal for us to just raise a few issues when it comes to the reality on the ground. As I wrote to Brian the other day, with people, downsizing, not concentrating on their job, worried about losing their job. There's so many other factors in this as we downsize and liquidate. That's the only point I wanted to highlight. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. We're not really touching the human side of liquidation, right? We're just talking about transactions. But I'm sure, in the fact of who you hold accountable for something, if you do counting and controlling when you arrive there, and you realize that there are tons of things that are misplaced and missing, accountability of someone who's not part of the mission anymore, or who's about to be laid off, and how you deal with these things on a day-to-day basis, that's something we can't train you for. I'm sure you'll experience that when you're there in person. And I'm sure that people like Nico, Joseph, Lucia, and so on that have had this experience in the past, I'm sure can prepare you guys better than we can for that reality. But for now, as long as the transaction... Yes,
Sorry.
Nico.
One of the biggest problem faced is that the bin itself, in terms of warehouse in the storage type, are the containers itself. It's not a proper bins, a physical bin, but they are identified with the container serial number, okay, and its contents is the. So the problem is that if there is not a proper map of these container yards, for example, as it is in UNAMI, because with Lucia, with Gianluca, with Ezio, we definitely see them, okay? It will be quite impossible to recognize the bins and, of course, the product that these containers contents is. So that's a very, very huge problem that we can face into the UNAMID, or generally speaking into the field, when because sometimes there's no warehouses, and storage types with shelves and everything else. So the bins are the containers, and rains, dust, or rusty containers, and sometimes it's quite difficult to recognize the serial number of the container, that is the name of the bin, and that's a problem, something that we faced, definitely.
Nice.
Yeah, I still remember those containers, when we were walking by in UNAMID, right, Brian? God only knows what was inside. Yeah, I still remember that.
Yeah, even opening containers with things that they didn't even know were inside them, right? That were never used. They were just there, and just because of the heat in the desert of Darfur, they were broken, but no one had ever used them before. And maybe they were never added to inventory in the first place. So it is true. You have no idea what you're going to encounter. And that's something that once you face that reality, you'll have to understand. But if you don't even know the basic transactions, then there's no way you can deal with this. But it's true that once you experience that reality, you'll have to learn a completely new way of dealing with the process, the reality way. And like you're saying, Nico, this would be not even the bin we're talking about, the storage section or the storage type that we're talking about. It's the container area in the back where you just open and things are just thrown there, like Nicola is saying in the chat. Boxes, pallets, or simply loose inside a container. So yeah.
If I can add to this nice discussion, bringing some experience, I can see issues more when it comes to missions that not only liquidate, but there is a follow-on mission. So in other words, there is another new entity coming in where your stock or your assets from the previous mission, in the case of, for instance, Haiti, moving from Minusta to Minujust, for instance, or Minujust to Bino, you need to segregate some assets for the new mission. So you face the reality of downsizing, closing a mission, people checking out, handing over equipment to warehouse. At the same time, you have a new entity coming in simultaneously, a new inventory, new people hired for that mission. And if you don't segregate these locations, it's really, I can see the mess because you have assets coming in, stock, at the same time, the operation still goes on. So you may issue for your own operation and the new mission kicks in. So it's a really, and on top of it, as I think Brian said, you face with the downsizing of people. So you have no staff. Roles of Umoja kicks in as a problem, or the inventory itself, the plant is not there, blah, 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 blah. So you know better than I. So in more than a liquidation, I can see this maintaining control more on liquidation plus a startup simultaneously.
Yeah, thanks, Gianluca. That's another scenario to add to that. So yeah, thanks for the discussion and the points to see. Basically, like we're saying, it's like you threw a party at your house and all your friends left, and you're the one who's supposed to clean it, right? You take all the roles and you start cleaning up in the inventory, the warehouse, and plus you keep track of this in the system. I mean, that's to sum it up in a nutshell. That's the idea. Anything else in terms of counting and controlling, whether we want to talk about a scenario, I don't know, if we're dealing with a missing fixed asset, or in a case like Unimid where suddenly 300 vehicles disappeared, or anything Daniel talked about in terms of transactions, or would you guys like to jump into the support of exercises you have performed already? Just let us know quickly in the chat or speak up so we know what to move on to.
Just a little one. Maybe I missed that part. Sorry, Daniel, for that. If I this physical count is, let's say, a process that has to be performed for all the lines during one fiscal year. There is a process in place. There is a policy in place for all the lines of the inventory.
Okay. So I guess that, from the theoretical point of view, then we can leave to Nico, some other colleagues with experience in counting controlling. And, that actually takes me to this question that I threw out initially in the presentation, this cycle count versus the manual count, right? To the best of my knowledge, even in the PID, in the record of a PID, it's a state, of course, the material number, the description, and plenty of information from the equipment or the item. But still, you have information of whether that item is batch managed, whether it's serialized, and the cycle count. Right, so even you have an information when or how many times that product ID should be counted. So in terms of a strategy of counting and controlling, I guess that throughout one fiscal year, all warehouse has to be accounted for, or a percentage of all the bins of all the storage locations with all the bins. I threw that question out there because honestly, we don't have KPIs for this particular type of exercise in BI. We do have for the physical verification part, which is tomorrow's session, but for counting and controlling per se, And I know that Nico mentioned before that you guys have to be compliant with some KPIs that were stated by Kirill's shop in New York. But honestly, in terms of KPIs over BIs, I don't know exactly whether you have to really go through all the bins in one fiscal year, or depending on the strategy and the most valuable materials in your warehouse. So
Yes.
actually, I'm responding to your question with another question. Sorry for that, but I think we have a good audience here to really respond commonly. Over to you guys.
Okay, Gianluca. It's basically related to the inventory in order to match the inventory with the warehouse, the stock. Okay, and it's done at PID level that, of course, are located in bins. So you have to work through these two entities. And yes, it's monitored from New York, and it's KPIs that starts from the 1st of July and the fiscal year. So the end is on end of June, and is monitored every 3 months through New York and Kirill teams reports with other KPIs. And it's the part the 4th or the 5th, actually. I don't remember well the old note in which order it is. Yes, it is monitored and has been done. It needs to be performed at warehouse level. So every storage location related to plant and warehouses, and at all storage types and all the storage bins, starting from the PID, because that's what we need to actually count. And we use the report that now in this screen is the report .02/04, the physical accountability of inventory. And it gives us a first view of what is counted as what has been counted into the period and what has been not. So you choose the entity, the plant, and you can also choose between the not serialized item or the serialized only, or both. It depends what you are what you need to perform.
Is it okay? And Nico,
yeah.
For example, in this, thank you very much for mentioning this. I was opening BI as you were speaking, but for example, this period, this 0204 BI report, it would be okay if the time range would be from July 2019 to, let's say, March
or April, yes.
Or April, okay, so
yes,
I put 04, plant UNAMID, and then I will select.
You can choose both in order to find serialized and not serialized, or you can choose just one of them. You exclude the virtual storage location because, of course, has not been received yet physically. And you can choose to don't show the material with no stock, choosing no. Why? Because sometimes in the system you can still have the product ID, but with zero quantity in terms of stocks and inventory, it just remains as a data. Okay, so choosing not, it excludes everything. And when we select the inventory type with all, is basically the storage location, the one that, so all the inventory gives you all the inventory related to that plant. Okay.
So, and then even you can identify consumables and supplies and
strategic reserve. Yeah, of course.
Or strategic reserve. Okay, and then we'll put there as a reporting entity as well, UNAMID. So we'll make sure that there are no more reporting entities. And remember what I said. This is you will not find in SAP in Umoja this reporting entity concept. It's only for these reports. And then once we filled in all the information, we launch the report, and then we see the results. for the analysis here. But I was planning to show these reports tomorrow or the day after, together with the physical verification, because yes, we have plenty of them related to PV process and the aging of stock and stuff like that. But as you can see, initially it comes with reporting entity and plant, which is UNAMID with UNAMID plant, and all of a sudden the information is broken down by storage location, by the number, as well as the description of the storage location. So all the information is broken down by storage location in UNAMID. That's the first entry point in the exercise. Then the different. Yes, Nico, please, over to you.
It means that for example, reading the storage location 1101 related to the engineering in Eldain, we have the unrestricted stock, the quantity, its value, what has been counted during that period range, and what and the total value of what has been counted. And the last two columns indicates the percentage of what has been counted and the percentage of what has not been counted. This is generally in terms of storage location, and it gives you for all of them. Then if you navigate a little bit with the data and you add into the column the material, it gives you exactly the PID that needs to be inspected, counted, or you don't.
Okay, so for example, now, Nico, I'm going to sort this, one of the last columns in descending order, so we can see which storage locations have been counted in the period that I selected initially. As you can see, the first ones are almost reaching 100%, whereas some others, like in Khartoum, Supply, El Dain, El Geneina, are barely started with the counting. And then, as you were saying, if it would be okay to maybe drag and drop the material ID as well, Nico? Yes. Okay, but let me do it for a particular storage location, so we don't come up with a huge report. Yes. Let me only select Nyala, right? Supply in Nyala. So I select Nyala, and I'm going to keep that one, keep members. So the system understands that I want just to focus my analysis on the first one. Luckily this report goes quite fast, so that's good news. Then for example, in the left panel, I will be able to drag and drop here in the rows several items. As Nico is suggesting, it will be good to add the material group description. Is it the one or any other?
Just the very first one, material, that is the PID.
Okay, over here. So I drag it over here in the last row, and then you'll see material here being created over here in this part. You see the material PID over there. So remember, this analysis, it's only by supply in Njala, right? For only one storage location.
And of course, you can add all the description, whatever you want in the analysis, and gives you the idea of actually what needs to be counted and what has been done already.
Yeah, good point, Nico, because there we can see for this particular storage location that actually the missing PID, or the one that is not being fully accounted, it's this PID. It's 15. This is a piece of equipment. It's almost 96%, 97%. So if I still go and I drill down my analysis by keeping that one, that member, I'm going to focus my analysis on this PID for this particular storage location in UNAMID. And then I can only one line, right? And I can just see the description of material. Let's see what I have here. Material description. I put it in the analysis as well. And then I know that these are the desks and computers that still need to be counted in the period. Okay.
Yes.
And then if I have here some serialization profile will be serialized, that's for sure. And what else I could put here? Well, in case that this is small, this should not be an asset because the material starts with 15. And we can identify which is the fan center responsible or linked to that storage location. Probably will be a CITS, I guess. Here, let me see if I have a description. No, fan center description. This one. Over here. So as you can see, yes, Nico.
Okay, and this is of course your the first analysis to be performed, because after that you have to jump into ECC to find out where these items are located. Okay,
exactly.
And it could be splitted in more than one bins or in one bin only, etc., etc. So once you go back to ECC, and it gives you the exactly scenario of what you need to go to inspect.
Okay, so I will have to go to this particular storage location for the warehouse, and for this particular PID, and see which serial numbers still have to take a look at it. Okay, so that's a good example. Thank you, Nico, because that's for the storage location, which it's almost completed. But as you could see, if I go back to the storage location, do you see that this yellow funnel? That means that this particular item has been filtered. So if I double click.
Yes. I mean, it's related only to the PID 43 funnel.
And this one for Njala. But I can actually do that analysis for all the storage location for that particular PID, right? So instead of an analysis by storage location, then you are doing an analysis by PID, by a desk computer, right? So yeah, there are ways, and as Nico was mentioning before, I mean, the BI is not giving you an answer. It's just a tool that you use along with ECC, in this case, in order to perform the analysis. So in this case, what I have here, I have the material, I have the same material, which is desk computer, in 3 storage locations, in Yala, Salangay, and El Fasher.
Okay,
and
that's the case.
Done,
Completely done for the storage location for 102 and for 106. It means counted, but not for the storage location for 105. That is the one that we were taking into consideration before.
So we could see that at least, if I'm not mistaken, for the material is being filtered, right? And we're talking about 15.0.0.0.4.3.
Yeah, computer.
So we can say that to the best of our knowledge, 97% or 98% of these PIDs has been counted in the period from the PID perspective, right?
Yes. If you go back into the very first column of the analysis, you have the quantity. So it means that we have 332 in stock for the storage location for 102. Why is totally counted 366? Because probably during this time, during this range of time, more than 332 has been counted, because maybe we're part of the inventory, and they have been probably issued. So physically I counted 366, but as of today I have only 332 in unrestricted stock under that storage location. Okay. So just to don't get confused with number, why I have counted more of than when I have been in stock.
Okay, and the same will be applicable for the second one, for the second storage location in Sangay, 4750, and on the contrary, for Njala, because in this case we have still 3% of these computers not being counted for. Okay. So this is the way of, let's say, linking BI in terms of counting controlling with ECC. Exactly. I mean, this gives you a way to start doing an analysis in ECC rather than, giving you the solution. But just in 2 clicks, we were able to identify the percentage of, PIDs for one particular PID, what's being counted and what's not being counted by storage location. I think it was a good example. Thank you very much, Nico, for that.
Daniel.
Yes, over to you, Ryan.
Just to jump in, since we're still looking at this screenshot, I'm not sure you've taken a look at the chat, but there's also a very interesting discussion going on. Gianluca Vantagiato jumped in, threw a nice little one there, saying that besides all the data we're seeing, Niala is already closed, just for your information. And of course, this spurred a bunch of questions from my side and also a number of comments from Lucia and Nicola and so on about the fact that these items are still showing here, maybe because the physical verification is not completed, the items are still in write-off process, and that's why they still show up here. So we would have to complete the write-off process for these items. So when we take a look at this, we still feel like we're still in the process of counting and controlling, but actually we've actually closed the location for Niala. I think somebody was speaking there.
Yes, it's correct. Because the system recognizes as beans and storage type. Also, for example, like you share right down in the chat, the 999, okay? So it means that in the storage type, that is not actually a building, but in this case, is the 999.
Interim.
Interim, yeah, exactly. It recognizes the storage type and the beans that in that case will be the outbound 916, for example, and the outbound if there is a good issue, or 999 and the interim into the bin. So yeah, this is the case because it's not been completed yet. So you will recognize this when you jump with this information into ECC. Okay, then this is a first analysis, and after that, when you go in deep into the system to check, for example, where this PID is located, you will see that it's related to an action not finalized yet in terms of write-off, etc., etc.
Okay, yeah, and on top of that, besides the items that you can drag and drop, I don't know if you realize the number of measures. If I collapse, well, let me just put in the background storage location, just a minute. Okay, so basically in the background, you're putting there stuff that still you wanted to be present in your analysis here, but not shown, right? Because otherwise you keep enriching the analysis with so many columns and you kind of like lose the numbers on the right side, right? So still reporting entity, plant, storage locations, it's there, but you cannot see them. They are not visible, let's say, right, in the analysis. But you can see, I just want to underline just in measures. If I expand measures, I have plenty of other data available. It's kind of underneath my analysis. If I click on measures over here, you see that most of these items are not being checked. So stuff like, for example, total value of counted quantity out of period, value of counted quantity out of period as of the last period to be adjusted. So there are plenty of other columns that you may want to check in this report as well. Okay. The good thing about this access, BI55, which is a very good access, it gives you information to a lot of reports from different perspectives of the property management lifecycle of a piece of an equipment. So you have information on the equipment, on inventory, on aging of your stock, on physical verification, on counting, controlling, on incident, accident, on write-off and disposal process. Of all kinds of assets, and that's actually an action that we discussed with Casimiro. So it's very important to put in place specific analysis for property and equipment being fixed asset, especially for the ones not being found after physical verification process. So it's It's a quite good access, this one in BI. Anything else, Nico, in terms of counting controlling for the list of reports? We went through the AWS on 2/4. I guess that the rest are related to PV process, physical verification, like this one. Report number 3, effectiveness of physical accountability on equipment below threshold.
Yes.
And some others that we can see tomorrow for fixed assets as well. Yeah. So do we have any more questions
Actually,
or comments?
For Joe,
yeah.
Because as I told you before, this is definitely controlled by New York and Kirill. But in terms of liquidation, do you know if these KPIs are applicable for a mission that is under liquidation process as well?
Actually, this has been discussed many times over the last several liquidations. But the reality is, and Kirill knows, that it's impossible to keep in line with the KPIs during downsizing and liquidation, in particular liquidation, right?
Exactly.
It's very difficult, which is why I said during the week to Kirill that we need to sit down after this exercise and sit down with people and talk about changing some of the KPIs rather than us falling off the cliff. I mean, I'm not shocked at the Unimid data, in particular what John Lucas said. I was talking to him earlier about Nyala. I mean, if Nyala is in such a state now, right, and in a few months' time, Unimid is going to liquidation, we're in big trouble. Because that's Nyala, and Nyala is closed, and that's only one location. There's a lot more locations in Unimate that has to close, or maybe some will be handed over to a new mission. Who knows yet? But still, it just shows you the scale of the work that needs to be done in Unimate. And I'm not too sure if everything will be finished before the liquidation. As a matter of fact, I'd be 99.9% sure it won't be. And that causes another problem for us because the people who are involved in that liquidation may not be there anymore afterwards. Thanks.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And it's thank you, Joe. And I think it's a good question as well to or maybe to comment in the afternoon session with New York at 4. All those questions related to KPIs and how it can really be handy or not, or whether still the mission has to be compliant with those KPIs. Doesn't seem like the best scenario to track down KPIs if you're going to go through a liquidation phase. Question I throw out there: how long are you envisaging to be deployed, for example, in UNAMID for liquidating, let's say, the mission? I guess it's some more than 4 weeks, right?
Are you talking about? Okay, I mean, we're going to be sending teams over a period of months, for a couple of months at a time, maybe 8 weeks, maybe even longer if we can. Okay. And we'll carry on right to the very end. We'll have people there. We'll have people there all the time until the liquidation time is finished, and then carry on in Brindisi remotely wherever needs to be done, which at the moment looks like a hell of a lot.
Yeah, it's because the amount of work seems like I don't know, gigantic, and to be carried out by only several weeks, especially with the data that you can see in some reports and the situation on the ground. Mm-hmm. Yep, this is the actually the storage location. If we want to only filter by Njala, for example, now that Gianluca mentioned. Let me see, I'm going to select only Njala, which I have here: TPT, transport, supply chain, ICT, and engineering over here.
Yeah, so what Daniel is doing right now, for those of you who are very new to all of this, is only looking at the storage locations for Nyala, whether it's engineering, communications, transport, and so on, so that we take a look at what the inventory looks like for that specific storage location. And one of the locations in what we understand as the plant, right, Unimid. So remember, this goes back to our day one and what we've been learning about inventory management and warehouse structure. So we pull this report, we have an idea, and we're using this report because this is the one linked to, or the one that gives you better information linked to counting and controlling. That's why you see the percentages of counted versus not counted. And we're going to analyze what's there. But as Nico said as well, this is only giving you one view, right? Then you need to use a different lens, which is diving into ECC to see materials individually, just so that we're all still following and we know what we're showing here. Because I think this is very interesting, what we're doing right now, Daniel, and the discussion we're having.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. So now for Ingela, what we can see here is each of the storage locations has a unique fund center linked, okay? And for each of these storage locations, we have information in terms of unrestricted stock, totally counted in the period, and the percentage of counted in the period, if only for Ingela, right? For ICT, for TPT, which is, I guess, transportation, engineering, and supply chain. So results only very high level, because now if we drag and drop the material description or the product ID on the, let's say, our analysis, then instead of only 5 rows, we will have 2,000 rows, because all this information will be broken down by product ID. And that product ID will be aligned to a percentage on whether that PID has been counted or not. So remember that at the end of the day, what you're going to do, let me see if I can have access to it. It's from the counting and controlling point of view, you're going to take a look at a particular bin, and then you will have to check from the particular PID here, which are the serial numbers included in each of the bins that you are going to monitor or to take a look at. So this is a hell of a work, if I may say, only for one particular bin with thousands of items, especially in the conditions that we discussed previously, with the heat, with the containers thrown out there, not opened for a good number of weeks probably, and with all the PIDs not really well organized, because I probably do not envisage to have shelves, different type of containers within the, boxes within the container, where you can just, as a warehouse user, go initially and check that things are on order, right? So it must be difficult work, Nico. Yeah.
I mean, it's not a problem, because it's related to this exercise. The fact is that we are analyzing, for example, one PID, okay? And as I told you before, then we go to analyze in which bin is located. That bins, of course, can contain several other PID, sometimes connected to other storage location. And the cycle count exercise cannot be related to that PID only when you are working at bin level, but you have to control everything that is the contents of that bins. Okay, so it means other product ID that when finalized and the inventory record is closed, of course it will increase the report we are taking into consideration. I don't know if it's clear. For I mean, we are analyzing one PID only, but if in that bins there are other product ID, we cannot just check in this case the computer only. We have to check all the contents. Okay. Sorry.
I was actually, in order to, as you said, Nico, maybe it would be a good idea. I don't know. I'm just trying to. This was not actually, let's say, planned, but we can go into production, right? If I have access and actually see the reality instead of just working in ECC.
Maybe it's better to take into consideration alpha share items instead of Niala, all these downsizing regions. Take, for example, and something related to alpha share that maybe can give us a clear picture of the situation.
Okay, here I have Njala or Unamis Khartoum.
Exactly, Khartoum.
This one?
Oh, yeah.
As a warehouse? Khartoum.
Yeah.
And here I have several storage types. Should I pick one or a series of should I take the first one or the first five or all of them? Well, all of them, no, because these
Yeah.
are virtual staging storage types, but just
No,
one, the first one?
let's try the first one, yes.
Yeah, and no bin, and
No bin
remember,
enough.
this is the exercise that we did before. So
Okay.
this is real data, right? As and these are the
Exactly.
bins that we were mentioning. Yes, Nico, over to you.
Exactly. So let's. Can you expand in from choose to because this one doesn't give you the view of the. There must be something like
Remember that these are layouts
the
created
Piro
by
one.
different users. Excuse me?
If you
Piro, this
choose
one?
the layout of the Piro, it gives you the last inventory number and etc. No, sorry. You need to extract the column of the inventory in order to see if it's been done or if don't. You know?
So which one should I pick here?
This is production, Unity, Rails, Piro, Unsus layout. Try Unsus layout, for example. You see if somebody put this data. No. Yeah, it's okay. Here it is. Last inventory. You see, it means that on the 7th of October, according to the system, on the 7th of October 19, an inventory has been opened for this bin. Okay. Storage type 001, storage bin C000160. Okay. Disco clutch. Let's imagine that we have, through that analysis before in BI, we discover that we need to analyze and to count this product ID 1200000015 related to the disco clutch. Okay, where those disco clutch are located in this bin that contains other items. Okay?
Let me filter. So I will select and I set this filter for this particular bin. Okay, Nico.
Yeah.
And look at this, as Nico was saying. Look at the amount of spare parts only for this particular bin. At least if I click on the eye, I will see the number of records. You see, 280 different records only in this bin.
Exactly. So when we start the cycle count, we cannot just concentrate on the product that we are taking into consideration through BI. Okay, that's our starting point, but the bin need to be inspected completely, and sometimes can contains also material related to different storage location. In this case, don't, but sometimes it could be, you know, different material loaded into pertinent to different storage location located into one bin. So it's a huge job. It is. But the system can help us. How? If we have the data here, right? For example, 7th of October. Okay. If nothing has moved after that data in this bin, but for example, one PID has been added, I know that I can take into consideration just the inspection of the PID that is being added only, because nothing moves from the previous data in which I started the counted. Okay, this is if something happening during the reporting period in that bin. But if you have to start from the very beginning, let's imagine that is 1st of July, I have to count everything, and of course, once I closed and the inventory record is closed, this will have an impact in that report that we ran before for all the product ID that we are seeing here, okay? Not only from the one that I'm taking into consideration.
Okay, Nico, can I just jump in there? That comment you made about where you check, I mean, we all know that maybe that data that you're looking at now is not correct. Then maybe there has been a lot of this stuff moved out of those bin locations that have not been updated in the system.
Sorry, say again, Joe, sorry.
I'm saying that a lot of the data that's there may not be correct. We're assuming that the data is all correct. Some of this equipment might be already gone out of that bin location and not updated in the system.
Joe, only a physical action can give you this answer. This is what there is in the system from the system point of view. And it means that in this C000160, as of today, that maybe is a container, because you see the storage section, CNT is a container. Okay, so it means that this container that is mapped as a bin contains all this product ID. So somewhere in alpha share, there is this container that contains this. This is the data as of this is production, Joe. So this is a real data. It's not a training environment now. So it means that that container contains this one, and it means that on the 7th of October 2019, an inventory record has been opened for this, and the cycle count has been done. Now, after that data, something maybe has been removed from that container, etc., etc. So that's why I told you before, maybe this exercise must be done prior, very, very prior the liquidation, because when we arrive over there and we need to find something, for example, Bearing Toyota 90363, the very first product ID I'm reading now, we must be 100% sure that that item is located in that bin. Okay? In case we need to read it off, in case we need to do whatever we need to do. So that's the stock, Joe. Simply, this is simply the stock. And if it's real, or if it reflects the reality, we cannot give you this answer until we didn't see physically.
Yeah. True. True. I should have said, of course, you'd only know by doing physical verification. But Nico, let's be honest here, and for everybody to understand, that is one container.
I know.
Okay. And in order to do a physical verification of that container, you would have to take out every single item. Am I right?
You're right. In fact, Joe, when we with Gianluca and Ezio in the field, when we saw all those containers, even if it shows you that on the 7th of October a cycle count has been done, honestly speaking, I don't really think so that it's been done. It has in this case is just system trusting. Is the system that is driving the user to make any transaction. I mean, there is a high percentage of probability that those items are not there.
Yep, and especially.
And sorry to interrupt you. Just to add to that, in Minijuice, for example, we had the opposite, where we had containers empty that was supposed to have a load of items inside as per the system. So, yeah, physical verification is important, really, really important, but the reality is something different, I can tell you.
Because if all the transactions not properly finalized after, you can run all the report that you want, and you can see whatever you want into Umoja, but if the transaction are not done properly, you will never have a real match between inventory and stock itself.
And
Exactly.
Nico, and on top of that, then you have here the goods received date with new spares in this case. So we may expect, in case that they do exist, all these items, you know, they're almost 3 years old. They are being present in these bins for almost 2 years and a half with no good issue whatsoever, but still they are in this bin. So
This, the 9th of August 2017 is the time of migration from Galileo to Umoja. So the inventory migration.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I see, what I appreciate in this report, if we stay to the first line item, the belt, there are some movement, right? The good receipts was done on the 9th of August. Okay, it was a system transfer, right? Before from UNAMID Galileo to UNAMID Umoja. Then those items were placed in stock in terms of warehouse the 26th of August 2017. Then what I see is that there are some movements. There has been a removal on the 10th of April, recently, 20 days ago. The items system-wise are being, let's say, moved, are being actioned. Of course, there are some that are stuck since the very beginning, but the only answer is, again, I can quote Pierre, only physical verification counting will respond to our question. Something is happening, something possibly is not happening. It's very difficult to have a picture, no, a starting point. That's the trick.
And then we can link. Thank you, Nicola. For this, we can see it was Fasher, right? Fasher. No, I need the number. So I'm going back to BI. So I need the storage location here, but the number, which was 5104. Bear with me a second.
And yeah, while you do that, Daniel, I think it's very interesting since we're always trying to explain, especially to newcomers. I think it's very important to visualize what we're talking about, right? Gianluca posted a picture in the chat that I think, honestly, you can't get a better shot than that, right? At what we're looking at. You have a huge pile up of containers, right? One on top of the other in the chat, which is, so imagine we're looking at the one all the way at the bottom to the right, the green one, and we open it up and we're cross-referencing what we see in there versus what we're seeing in ECC and those bins that Daniel was looking at before. Those that say that the last physical count was performed in October, for example. Well, now we're opening up that bin in the middle of nowhere there. We have to take everything out, count everything one by one. So again, physical versus what's in the system, right? The system may say there's 15 spare parts of this, a belt of that, and this, and so on. But maybe when you open and take a look, they're not there. Or maybe they're there and they're broken. God knows what you're going to find when you're in there. This is like this show on TV in I don't know what channel it was, where they would open these warehouses and find all sorts of crazy stuff, right? Who knows what you're going to find in there?
People was walking in the morning, not only one, maybe 6, 7, 10, it depends, with the bin location or actually the number of the container and walking around in the yard, try to find the bin for hours.
Okay.
Exactly.
Gianluca,
right? Try to find
Gianluca,
that bin
if
there.
you may add, another big problem there, this is Ezio, good afternoon, is when they perform the pick in Umoja, they pick from wherever they like. It's not actually the right bin when they pick from Umoja. Because remember, Gianluca, they used to say they don't have a forklift to reach the top container. So they always pick from the container in the bottom, on the ground floor, while actually it was not like that. So that is very unreliable. And we were complaining several times about that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ezio.
Yeah. So yes, here in BI, we have an analysis, a very high level analysis for this particular storage location, 5104. And for this storage location, 5104, we don't only have this bin, right? What we have here is a really a large number of bins with a lot of prod IDs, right? So the specifics in terms of bins from this BI report, it's in ECC with LX02, you see? So you have here specifics on the bins and prod IDs by bin, but the analysis in terms of counting or percentage of all these items, right? It's in BI, which we can see that still 30% has not been counted in the period, okay? So a way to link both worlds, you know, the BI part and ECC will be this, you know, it's same storage location in ECC, excuse me, sorry for that, in ECC and BI with the same storage location over here and the different bins. Because in BI, I'm afraid I have to say that there is no information by bin, right, Nico? Or at least to the best of my knowledge.
Correct.
Exactly. So there is no BI analysis by bin.
And then you have to migrate the data into the data that you retrieve from BI in terms of PID into ECC.
Exactly. So if you want to talk about exactly the bins and the PID, this is your friend LX02. You will be able to see, and this is just from what Nicola was saying. This is just what the system says. Another story will be what the reality is, only for this particular storage location, right? And whoever did a change in terms of these bins was this user, last changer. This person was the last one making a change in all these bins, on all these records as well. You can keep track of who did what in this last column over here. But I think it was a good exercise to actually see these things in production, right? Because at the end of the day, what the exercises for you, it's just to check one bin with 2 PIDs. But reality is this. Reality is 280 records, a lot of PIDs broken down in different storage bins. If we want to know the numbers, I will go here in filter. I will go to the match code. I would see actually 2 only 2 bins, container 160 and then this workshop. You can see what's in the workshop. Yeah, still plenty of spare parts as well for vehicles, right? So yes, I mean, I don't know if it is useful to go through the production data for you to see what's the reality, but and how you can link this view with the exercise that we will go through, or you are meant to do for counting and controlling. But I think regardless the reality in one system or the other, the actions that you will have to perform, it will be the same, right? In terms of transactions, you will have to run this report. You will have to see whether you have pending TRs and pending TOs to be confirmed before you go through the counting and controlling process, as Nico was saying before as well. If things went or are okay when you are deployed, all this exercise in terms of physical verification and counting controlling are being done. So you are from the scratch with clean data doing all these write-off and liquidation activities, but probably that will not be the reality when you reach Khartoum, right? Or some other places, because this is in Amit, but I can only imagine how difficult it must be to go to MONUSCO, for example, with 13 different sites and a lot of items all over the place. So over to you, Brian, or any other colleague.
No, thank you all I think this discussion was very valuable. I hope those that are not experts in Umoja also appreciated this. I think it gave us a very good idea of what it is visually, right? To see what a bin looks like, right? Maybe even what a storage section looks like in this case, talking about the container area that we were talking about at the beginning, day one, right? We talked about a warehouse. We talked about a location and a section in a warehouse. This could perfectly be one of those sections, right? That container area. Each one of those containers could identify a specific bin, right? What's inside of it, the information that's inside of it could belong to a specific storage location in Umoja. So, I mean, just to say this, just so you have an idea, all the white bins could belong to the storage location engineering, while the red ones belong to the storage location for transport. I'm just saying, so you guys can visually see that. You don't see the storage location, right? It's the inventory inside of the system, but you see the container, which is the bin, right, itself. And then where all the bins are all piled up on each other could be the warehouse section, right, where you have these goods at. So it's always very useful to understand this and visualize it. Personally, for me, until I was deployed to UNIMID and I spent the 3 weeks there, I was there with Daniel, and I saw it with my own eyes. I really didn't have a good understanding of what each thing was, okay, because there's a lot of terms to keep in mind, and I think this was a very useful session. Although we have eaten up most of the time of the afternoon to do support, seeing this and talking about it with the people that have been there and live it very often is very, very useful. So unless there's anything else, you guys want to maybe talk about something else on this specific session? I just didn't want to cut it only for the morning session. And as we've seen, we've consumed an hour and 20 minutes of the afternoon. If we're done and there are no further questions, maybe we can jump into some of the supporting aspects of the exercises. So I leave this up to you guys. Anything else to comment? Or should we jump into the exercises? And again, Gianluca, thank you for that picture. Again, this is one of those examples of a picture's worth 1,000 words. This is definitely something that is worth looking at.
Definitely, because one thing is, taking a look at an LX02, and then take a look at your right and see that picture with all that. First, you have to remove all that crap before actually accessing the container. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But what we can do is that the situation.
So I don't know whether you guys feel comfortable with the exercises from the very first day. I don't know if you can give us feedback on how everything went. If anyone else besides the persons who usually are speaking, if anyone else who hasn't spoken yet wants to share his or her experience with the system or with the exercises, we really would appreciate a lot, because we really want you to have a feeling of how the system behaves and works. We want you to be really to the best of your capacity to really excel in the transactions and feel comfortable with the system before you take the plane to UNIMID. So yeah, any information, anything that you may share, it will be important for us, so we can help you these weeks.
All right, maybe we can start with day 2. Anything on physical verification or physical verification? Oh my God, sorry, on physical goods receipt or virtual goods receipt from day 2. If anybody wants to make a comment, now's the time. We have a good 40 minutes. Maybe we want to talk about something related to the exercise. I can even share my screen. Maybe if not day 2, maybe you're already on day 3, day 4.
Hi, Brian. Sorry, maybe it's something that I'm not able to do, but I often find issues to create PDFs and to attach it to the notification. Maybe it's my computer, or maybe it's me. Or can you explain something in relation to the creation of PDFs and attaching to the notifications or other documents? Thanks.
I see. Yeah, I know what you mean. And sometimes it's not difficult to find out where you have to click to do it, but actually that your computer responds, right, and lets you save it as a PDF. Right? That's the case?
Yes.
Okay, let's see, because the only thing I can do right now is maybe log in and we can see it together. And that's what I'm doing really quick.
But if there are questions more, let's say, important than this, we can see that later. I mean, I guess this is not a very critical step. Maybe there are other colleagues that have more important issue to raise. Okay, thanks.
All right, sure thing, Gianluca. Well, as long as no one says anything, that's the question I have, and that's the one I'm going with. So.
Hello? I don't know if it's myself or Brian went off.
I was sorry. Yeah, I forgot to unmute myself when I did. Sorry. What I was saying is thanks, Gianluca, for your comment. There's nothing else, so we're going to go with that. Okay, that's the first question we have, so that's the question we're going with. And I was saying that I'm just logging into the system right now, and my question to you was, is there a specific exercise you want to go by? Is this from physical verification, virtual? Maybe we can look at the exercise at the same time, the body of the exercise?
Look, it happened to me to all the exercise, so anyone you pick is the same.
Okay.
And Gianluca, it's if I understood you correctly, it's how to upload in ECC?
When you finalize the transaction that the system, I understand, should generate when you do the printing, right? It should generate a PDF, if I understand well, and then should be able to save into your local computer, and after that you should be able to upload. I'm not able to do that, and neither the creation of PDF nor I don't see the same pop-up view that you display on the PDF on the exercise when you. Okay, I'm missing now the description of the function. Is like you know what I'm talking about, the one that allows you to upload. If you bear with me a second, I'll tell you straight away which view I'm not able to.
Yeah, I'm looking at it myself. The MB90 T code?
I think it's page 29, exercise step number 5. For physical, at least, not for virtual. For virtual, I have the same issue, Gianluca. So I wrote down which exercise was it, and I think it was for the PDF. I don't know if it was page 99, step 5. I think it was for the enrichment.
So page 19 on physical, enrichment. Sorry, now I'm jumping. I was in the virtual now. I had opened that one. It has to do with that T code MB90. Here, I'm sharing my screen now. Okay, this is what I'm looking at right now. The section where we tell you MB90 print GR slip.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you are accessing your computer and then converting to PDF, and then you can upload. Yeah, I mean, it could be an example, I think.
Okay, so.
Yes.
Okay, so basically, let me use the same type of info we have here. Move this over so I have a good view. And we're talking about ZGRS. Short order, processing mode 2. Okay, and the material document, that's the only one thing I would need unless I have it in my demo, but this is for physical goods receipt. Anybody has a material document there at hand, or maybe, here you go. Okay, there you go. Good thing I had one there. Let's see, so basically we're just generating this, going back, following the steps. So this is what I have. And then we say here, double click on the material document number, click on execute. All right, so let's see. Hold on. All right, so at this point, I guess is where you're getting the issue. So let's see, print view. And once we have the document, we're talking about now getting the PDF. Let me just maximize that so we all have it on the screen. Okay, And let me see if any PDF preview.
Maybe you can, from the drop down, you can select the PDF. You don't? Okay. Right. But maybe you click on OK, it will be automatically created the PDF. You save it there?
Yeah,
exactly.
and let me just make sure I know to
this
say
is important. Read and write.
Yeah. Hold on, because my computer is processing this a bit slow. Okay, there you go. All right, so here's where the moment of truth comes in, right? Where you're going to save it in. So I basically just told the system, yes, okay, go forth and print. And it's giving me an option to save the print output as something, right? So before I select exactly what, I can maybe, I'm going to see if I can select downloads. I should have at least some documents show up here at first. Let me try this one. And here at the bottom where it says save as type, here let's go with, see, in this case, I only see two options. XPS document or open XPS document. Here I don't see the option for PDF. Maybe I can save it as this, and then once it's saved, I can
because you're using Mac. It happens the same, right, for me, because basically you're accessing your Mac let's say directory of files internal in your Mac, and PDF it's not supported by your Mac. That's why you don't find the PDF extension. Then you, I don't know if you recall, I did have to use a converter today in order to create the counting and controlling document. That's why you don't see PDFs. But in your VDI, we have all in the mission with Microsoft, we have PDF, and then you will be able to select PDF in the drop-down. So no problem.
Okay. Let me just try this again and see where, see, I saved it under downloads, but even there it didn't show up. So maybe I have to do it in the local disk here, H. This looks a bit better, and downloads, I should have, there you go. See, now I know that it's in the real downloads folder. So if you guys see what I'm doing here, it may seem simple. Let me just close this, but it's not. Let's see, from text, right? Once I had this version of the document, and if we can all reach this point, I think we can. And even when the pop-up shows up that it's like this one here, there's a pop-up that shows up that says, okay, print, right? At this point, I was trying to see if maybe properties gave me the option to export or if there was any type of other option, but there isn't. And when I click on OK, I simply get this section here. So if you click on the drop-down, and you click on downloads maybe, or your desktop, it's not literally going to go to your desktop or your downloads on your computer. It's doing this in, if I'm not mistaken, in your, like, say, like Citrix desktop. It's somewhere else that you're not going to be able to reach it, right, in your own desktop. You have to go to your local disk here. See, in this case where it says Brian's MacBook, which is H in this case, and once I click on it, there I have my desktop and my downloads and applications and everything else. And here, for example, if I click on downloads, where I've been saving everything that we're sharing during this workshop, I have here, see, day 1, day 2, day 7, and so on. So I know it's going to go into my downloads this time around. So here, if I do say test PDF, and maybe I'm going to select the option XPS document, I'm going to save it. And now here, I should be able to access it in my downloads. And here it is. See, the file is here. It's XPS. I don't even think I can open this file. See, I have to search the App Store for this specific document file. So it's true what you're saying also, Daniel. The type of computer we're using, I think in PC it's a lot easier. Mac has a lot more restrictions as to what documents you can download from Citrix.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I use this converter, this PDF X-Lite, it's called. It's a free converter for Mac. As it doesn't come by default, the PDF in Mac. So you need to convert these whatever called extension OPX or whatever to a PDF. But don't worry, when you are basically, if you work, I mean, if you are working in Mac, then you need to use a converter. If you're not working in Mac, that will come by default, the option to convert to PDF, and you will have available your document in your screen, no problem.
All right, so just a quick reminder, right? So I did the T-code MB90, clicked on enter. It took me to this screen right here. I added the data, basically the data that's in your exercise. I just copied exactly what's either indicated or in the screenshot in this particular case, because it's the same data no matter what. Of course, the only difference is use the material document number that you generated, but everything else is the same. ZGRS, 01 under short order, number 2 under processing mode, material doc, and then your material document number. Once you have that info there, we clicked on execute, we select this line, we click on it again. It gives us the option to either print or print preview. I click on print preview, and then I go to this page here where I have the actual preview of the printing. And under the text navigation, I click on print. Once this pop-up loads, okay, and I choose where to save it. Remember, always select your local disk for you to save it on your computer. If not, you're not going to be able to see it. And now this is to download something, right? And have it in the PDF. But now we're also talking about uploading, right? If I'm not mistaken, into a specific, yes, let's say an inbound, yes, delivery document, right? All right. Let's see if we can run this and see what we can see here. And for example, I don't know who here, I see a test there. That's usually something I like to do. So this may be mine. In this particular case, what are we looking at? An inbound delivery for an X-ray machine. Okay, so we want to upload something here to this document. Now, how do we do it? So let's see, what have we been doing lately? I think this one is completely processed. No.
Brian, if I may,
yes, sure.
I just shared a link of a job page on how to attach documents in SRM and ECC, and clicking the services for object button is the standard way of attaching documents in many T codes in ECC. So it's in page 19, just for your info, because they will find the same button in many T codes in ECC. So it is described how to attach.
So it's basically this button that we're looking at here, Elena, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the options, if we can display them. Thank you for sharing that, Elena, by the way. So everyone, recommend taking a look, but the button that Elena is talking about is usually found at the top of every screen here, right below the execute button. You have, it's sort of like a dialogue box or bubble, like in the comics, next to a play button. It's a bit strange, the amount of icons that fit into that little box. And then we have here if I click on it, let me just see if I click on this option directly, this is what I get, right? A small pop-up, and with a number of icons that I see here, create. I see here attachment list, but I see it's grayed out. I don't know if I can even access it directly, but let's take a look at the document that Elena shared and see. So Gianluca, is this where you encounter the problem? And also you, Luis, when you click on the button?
There. Yeah, exactly there. When I follow the instruction from your PDF that you distribute every day, it says that you should click on the first icon, and the pop-up that I get is not the same that you show on the PDF.
Brian, edit the very first one, sorry. The green one, yeah.
This one here?
Yes.
Yeah, you're getting the same thing that I get when I try to do. Whereas the PDF with the exercise shows that a pop-up window will appear when you click the green icon that you just clicked now.
Okay, but the concept, sorry guys if I jump into the conversation, is the same for every kind of documents, like the inbound, the PO itself, a material document, or the notification. From that windows over there, now I don't know if it's a problem of the training environment of Mac. You are able to attach any document that you need, that you want, into that. Okay, let's say documents again. I give you a sample. If there are some communication as emails or whatever it is in a PDF form, you can attach into the PO or into the material document. If there is some whatever you need. Usually it's email for this kind of documents. For the inbound, for example, is the vendors details like packing list or other documents. Yes. Then you click on it and or try to in this way, Brian. Sorry, on the button on top, the little arrow close to the eye of inbound. Yeah. Yes. Records create note or records management logistics, and it should appear against the Windows. Okay, no, there's something.
Yeah, this is exactly the problem.
But in production, Gianluca, for sure, definitely you can attach your documents. If
I recall, in fact, when attaching documents to notification, when clicking that icon would appear, you know, the path to go in and attach your document. But this is not happening in the training environment. So I wanted to see. I wanted to understand if it was my machine or it's for everybody the same.
Maybe in this case that we are trying to update some documents to the inbound delivery is just because we are not navigated like the inbound coordinator credential. So we are not able to, maybe, I don't know which credential are we using.
Exactly the inbound coordinator, actually.
Yeah,
okay,
but just
okay,
just to clarify, I remember now that you guys are talking about training environment and upload. I remember last time I delivered a training with David Redondo on some months ago. I think we encountered the same problem. Somehow it's quite difficult to upload in the training environment. There is a glitch that prevents you to upload anything in the training environment. And I believe that even David Redondo, he created a ticket to SAP Direct to resolve this. But it was only happening in the training environment, so don't worry about it.
And guys, if I may jump in, I've been trying to attach to a notification as well, and I find the same issue. So probably it's this, yeah, there is a glitch in the training environment.
Thank you all. Thanks for the comments. Thanks, Sol. So then, okay, the process is correct. It just doesn't work. So if you guys can just skip that portion, I'm sure you have, and you've moved on and done the exercise regardless. But it should work, and in production, it should work without an issue. It's good that you brought this back up, Daniel, that you also had this issue with David and Sol also bringing that back up. Maybe we can follow up on that ticket and see if we can have that solved. But basically, yes, thanks for bringing that back up. At least the downloading of the PDF or the file works. Uploading doesn't. But I hope that hasn't blocked you too much and you were able to continue with the exercise. But thanks for bringing that up. At least we took a look at one of the issues that you had concerns with, Gianluca, and also Luis. Thank you. Anything else? Maybe, and if it's not documents, a transaction. Someone else maybe want to jump in? We still have 20 minutes. I guess I'll take a look at the chat, but I think we're okay. Yeah. Again, thanks, Elena, for sharing that in the chat, the documents themselves, the link. Okay, now's the time. Any questions? If not, I'm going to mention a couple of things that I saw based on the emails that I've been receiving. One thing first with vaccines, right? And during the physical and the virtual goods receipt. So if you select a batch or you use the same one that's in your document or in the screenshots of your document, and you're going through with it, but then you get a warning message or even a red blocking message that says, hey, the expiration date is in the past and you can't move forward, you can manually change that expiration date. If you just select each individual line and then change the each individual line of the vaccine and then change the date on those vaccines, you're able to move on. Another thing is also, like we were saying earlier, always use the information that's in your cover page. When we say look at your cover page for the data related to storage locations and so on. So if I'm displaying here a material document, I don't know whose it is, any, right? We see what I'm talking about, vaccines. If I see vaccine hepatitis A, the batch is 111222. But if I go down here to batch, because I'm looking at the vaccines down here, you see, if I click on batch at this particular place right here, I see that this batch, the date underneath is 2021. So this is not an issue. And I think this is something that somebody manually changed. Okay, that's so if you get an issue with any of these vaccines, you can definitely just select the line, go to the tab, change the date here manually, and then recheck, and I'm sure that you'll be able to move on. So that's a way to fix one of these basic issues that I saw coming up. We've also made some changes in the body of the exercise, so you guys could do that and know where to make the change. The next thing is, what else in Migo also? Yes, very importantly, the warehouse management tab here, right? This is going to display the warehouse you're putting things in, right, where we're going to put the final put away transaction to put the inventory, the goods that we're receiving in inventory into the warehouse management structure. But the warehouse is not the plant. Okay, I know it's very easy to confuse these at the beginning. That's why I was saying it was important to look at that picture Gianluca shared versus the screen that Daniel was sharing in Umoja, so you guys have a visual idea of what this is. So the plant, let's say, is Unimid, so it's the whole thing, right? It's Niala, it's El Fasher, it's all the locations combined, but the warehouses may reflect something else, right? A specific location within that plant. So IT1 is not the same thing as US00. When you guys look for your warehouse to know where to put things away or to process your transfer requirement number here, you're going to be adding this warehouse number. Okay, that is based on the storage location that these goods are in or supposed to go to. So that's what this means. This warehouse number means that exactly. A location in the system or a location in a specific mission or plant where we're going to finally put these goods away in physically. And when you pull your transaction requirement number and you don't find anything, it's maybe because you haven't put your warehouse number correctly. Okay, that's where you look for it. The tab Warehouse Management, displaying your material document in Migo. Now, besides this, any other issue? Yes, the typical yellow comments that show up on the bottom when you're trying to perform a transaction. You're clicking on enter and you get a warning message down here in yellow that tells you, are these dates correct, or these dates, the working day is in 2 days from now, or any sort of warning message. These warning messages are just that, warning messages that you can move on to by clicking on enter. Of course, always pay attention to what the warning is. But if you click on enter and the warning disappears and it seems like nothing else has to be done in the system, that means that you're probably done with the process, right? That happens a lot with reservation. And then all you have to do is click on save and the process will finalize. If you have a red message at the bottom, that means you're completely doing something wrong that the system is not allowing you to proceed with. So that's the difference between a yellow warning and a red error message. And then when there are no more messages there, but the system doesn't seem to tell you what else to do, right? It's just looking like it is now. I'm clicking on enter and the system is not doing anything. If you're creating a reservation, that means that all you're left to do is now save it to create it. The same thing is going to happen to you guys when you're confirming the TO or confirming the TR most of the time. You're going to click on buttons, get to a certain part of the screen that nothing else happens, and that's because you have to save. I know this is basic, but for those of you who are new, this is something that is happening. And it's very normal. When you're new to the system, these things can be difficult to understand. I don't think there's anything else there, right? Nothing more in the chat. I see, Luis, you're writing things in the chat. Theo,
Brian?
Yes.
Just if I may, I would like to tell you, all of you guys, that one small thing. The handover session that was supposed to happen on the day 3, we finally didn't cover it. We didn't do the demonstration, but we sent you the exercises, I think, because it's very similar to the equipment assignment and much simpler with less steps. But if you want to do the exercise by yourself, I recommend you to do this before the return to stock or the write-off, because we have created a kind of thread trying to imitate the real life cycle of a piece of equipment. For example, there is a good receipt, then this piece of equipment is assigned, afterwards it's handed over, and afterwards is returned to stock or written off or whatever. So you yourself, with the completion of the exercises, are preparing data for the upcoming ones. So if you are planning to do the handover, this is very interesting if you can practice it as well. My recommendation is do it after the assignment one and before the return to stock or write-off. And in the training package that you will receive after the training for practicing the post-training, let's say, package, we will create a kind of map of the exercises and the right order for you to be sure that you are doing them in the right order. I think it's clear. Any doubt about it?
It's clear, Sol. Brian, what I was writing before, at the end of the virtual goods, almost when we had to create a TO, I noticed that following the cover page, that 3101 had nothing there. So I don't know if I was entitled to use 3241 or not. But the fact is that that's the only place where I found the virtual goods. I was able to find it in a previous transaction and go through them. But I don't know if it's because of the training environment or not, but I didn't see anything in the receiving plan 3101, okay?
Yeah, I think, Brian, you're going through the cover page, right?
Right. So I'm so anxious that I forget to unmute myself.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Yes, Luis, thank you for realizing that I was speaking, Daniel. So, Luis, what I was saying is that Sol created a brand new batch of cover pages that I sent out on Friday. It was sent out shortly after the email for day 5. And in that batch, you have the correct storage location for both physical and virtual, because the actual storage location was wrong for both exercises. Both of them were 3101 when they should have been 3241. But it's true, like you say, during physical, you would have never realized because you never have to use the storage location. But in the virtual, like you correctly say, you do have to add it at some point, right? To see what the transit, right? Whatever is in transit to your final storage location. So if you add 3101, the transit location is always nothing, right? Nothing seems to be going there or arriving there. But if you switch to 3241, you see that things are incoming. And that's exactly true, right? If I open up the exercise for virtual and I look at the in transit or transit, I may be able to see it here in the exercise. But I think that's it. If you take a look at the email sent on Friday, you'll see that the new cover pages will show the correct storage location.
Okay, I will overwrite the old ones. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay, thanks for that. Anything else here? I'm going to scroll down in the meantime to that part that I'm talking about specifically, where it says, okay, remember there are 2 points here. One that we see the ZLE Auto PGI, where the virtual receiving user is looking at creating the STO, right? And we added the storage location 9,000 because we're going to put everything was put into the 9,000 virtual storage location that doesn't belong to any fund center. But then once we do that and we have it generated, we update the inbound delivery 2 with the information. And here, I think here is where the issue occurs, right? Run TCODE MB5T. And when we're adding our information, we add the material, we add the receiving plant, and here it tells you receiving storage location, right? Use data provided in the credentials page. And in that particular point, the first time around, it was 3101. Then when we corrected the cover page and the body, that's why I added it not only to the cover page that did Sol add it, but I also put it in the body so that we wouldn't have that issue anymore. If you add 3241 to the receiving storage location, that's what now you should be able to see everything that is in transit. Okay, and that is only noticeable when you do the virtual goods receipt, because this is the only point in the exercise where we actually ask you to add it. In physical, you never had to add it, so you didn't even realize it was wrong until you jumped into the virtual. So thanks for bringing that up again. I'm sure it's going to help whoever is struggling with these exercises right now. Let's see if there's anything else. I know we have not too much more time, but maybe one more question, suggestion, or comment. Please take a look at
Brian?
emails on Friday. Yes, Daniel.
Just to reinforce or underline what we said before on the screenshots on the body of the exercises, to really do not expect to see the same data as you see in the screenshots, because obviously they may be out of date, or they are referring to another material. So it's just for your guidance and reference, but not to be followed field by field with the same data. Just in case that someone, I don't know, understood that they had to really follow the screenshots in the body of the exercise. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. And I know it's very simple to do so, and you could wonder why it's not changed or maybe why it's not left blank. The thing is, every time we have to create a training, we have to maybe update the storage locations, the plants that we're using, the materials that we're using. As you saw what happened on Friday with the intra-mission transfers, the material that I had prepared for the transaction suddenly wasn't there from like one day to the next. So these things happen. If we had to update the screenshots every single time, that's all we would be doing, and it would be taking a long while. That's why even though we leave a screenshot that may not correspond directly to the what we're telling you to add, it's still very useful as reference. If I leave it blank, it may not help you see exactly where you're adding it. If I leave another one like 1401, you may think that's the correct one. But that's why we take time to describe here, use data provided in credentials. Sometimes we even describe exactly what plant you have to add in, or we tell you use data provided in credentials and we add it there too. Okay, screenshot is always going to be referenced. Just like, for example, this screenshot below. Just because you see 10 items here, 20 items here, the next time you run this report, that's not going to be the case, right? You're going to have a different amount of items. So the same thing happens when we're adding data. But at least we mark and we populate exactly what fields you need to worry about in each specific section. So keep that in mind. Don't follow the screenshot only as reference as to where you have to go, but the details that you have to add to each field, read the exercise body and the cover page. Okay, and here what I'm showing right now is the explanation of the batch. See, if the batch expiration date, you can change it. For example, select each line by clicking on the number 1 next to it, click on the batch tab and enter the expiration date in the SLED BBD field as follows. See, and in this case, I put the future, right? August 1st, 2020. You can put 2021 or any year as long as it's in the future. Okay, anything else? No. All right, so we're like 3 minutes away. Let us know if anything else is coming up. I've seen a lot of you have finished with day 2. You jumped on day 3. You even jumped on day 4. Some of you are even doing day 5, which is great. Again, remember, you have time. And this is for practice.
Sorry.
You don't need to rush. Yes.
Okay. No, till day 4, I'm fine with the exercise. So in the sense, I managed with your guides and with all the material that you provided us to carry on. I have a question. I don't know if you will cover. I was going through to see if I was finding the document to see if we are going to cover the TM module, because I'm receiving some requests and I'm not sure if you are going to cover during this training or you can just brief me quickly. I don't know if in 2-3 minutes you can give me an overview, only that.
All right. Thanks, Gianluca. Actually, we have been talking about TM when we talked about packing the inbound, packing the outbound, but only basically focusing on the packing and the need to do it. And then we also brought back the TM module on day 5 when we were talking about the main fields to add during the creation of an STR and STO. We don't want to spend not even too much time, but you need an entire workshop for TM, to be honest with you. We had one in October. If you want offline, right, when the training is over, we can talk together and I can cover some things you may need. But if we start adding TM to what we already have to see here, then we're definitely going to lose the majority of people in this training. But I don't mind at all discussing it with you offline. But we did mention TM during packing of inbound, packing of outbound, and creation of STR, STO. Even if we only talked about integration elements.
Okay, thanks. I will contact you after the training if you can help me to have some material so I can see how it's working. Thanks.
Sure thing, no problem. Okay, last request. If you want, Daniel, I think maybe 2 minutes before they join from HQ would be a good time to share the survey too. Okay, in the meantime, in the chat, and if anything else, I'm taking a look and I see they haven't joined us yet from HQ. I hope we have our questions ready for this afternoon's 30-minute session with HQ. And today's session was definitely interesting. Thanks, Daniel and Nico and Gianluca, everyone who has intervened, Joseph. I think that part where we were sharing the reports and looking at the pictures, if we don't realize how important it is right now, you'll realize it when you're deployed, for sure. All right, thanks, Daniel. So Daniel has shared in the chat the survey for this afternoon's session. Take some time to fill that one in. All right, nothing else besides.
I don't see, right? I don't see Kirill still. I mean, yet in the list, right? You're checking, right? Okay.
Yes.
Or
I'm taking a look as well. No one there yet. They may jump in any minute from now. And I see you already shared the survey. For those of you, anyway, if you haven't made a question or posed a comment for any reason during this session, don't hesitate to reach out to us regardless through the email, okay? Any issue you may have, we're still here available to help you. It's just a lot easier to do it quickly with a sharing of the screen like you saw. I just share my own, log into ECC, and show you how to do something, or actually prove that something can't be done like we did today with the uploading of the PDF.
And maybe with checking with Lara, because I know that she's in contact with Kirill and the rest of the guys in New York. Yes, Lara.
Yes, good afternoon. I just tried to contact it Viria, so I'm waiting response.
Oh, thank you, Lara. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lara, Joe here. Were they supposed to be on this week as well?
Exactly. I'm a little little bit confused. Last days I was busy with other things, but I assumed hearing the conversation that perhaps there were different agreements during the last days of the training, for which I didn't manage to fully follow.
Yeah, I have a feeling they were only on for the first week, but you can check with Viria.
I knew like that, but as following today's conversation, perhaps I thought that they didn't finish their presentation. But I already contacted Viria and I'm waiting for her response.
All right, thank you both. It does seem that way, right? That at least in today's session, they won't be joining us, at least for today. Because they're normally already here by this time. Yeah, while we wait, if you guys still have another suggestion or comment or issue with your exercise, maybe we can give them until 4:05 to confirm. And in the meantime, you guys can ask a question.
And just for assuring that in case that or while we wait for Kirill's, in case that they join, tomorrow the idea is to go through the physical verification process. So it's a session that it's linked to the equipment mass enrichment. So after we go through a physical verification process for a list of pieces of equipment in the mission, then what we'll do, we'll identify some discrepancies, right, for those pieces of equipment, and then we will massively upload those the equipment master record based on those discrepancies using the massive equipment template. So basically tomorrow we will use two templates, one to take a look or identify the discrepancies of the list of equipment, and when we upload that template into the system with the discrepancies, then we will upload the equipment master record massively of those equipments in the system as well. So it's just it's not only physical verification, but we will use the tool of massive enrichment to upload the results of the PV process as well. So tomorrow will be a longer session than today, right? And on top of that, there are plenty of other reports in BI for physical verification process and for assets as well, which are important. And so it will be a full session. I don't know if we are going to have time to have a free space for the afternoon session. We'll see. Okay. And then the day after, the idea is to go through the write-off process of a piece of an equipment, in this case, non-fixed asset, just an equipment, with identification involved, as well, along with the BI reports linked to the process as well. So still plenty of things to go through. I don't know what to say, fortunately or unfortunately. Over to you, Brian.
Fortunately, Daniel, always fortunately.
Exactly. I was waiting for your marching orders. Yes, fortunately.
Okay, and then we'll also see tomorrow how these 2 days, right? Day 6, day 7, physical verification, counting and controlling, how they're so linked to each other. And pretty much almost like an extended session of what we saw today, like you were just explaining, Daniel. Besides that, I'll share again by the end of the day. I'll share all the documents you have shared, Daniel, you as well. Also, Elena, I'm going to download that or share that job aid that you shared as well in the chat, and really send all of you all the exercises and cover pages like we do every day for day 6. I think that by now, right, Lara, if they would have joined, they would have joined already.
Fully agree.
Okay, perfect. So maybe we can just call it a day. Thank you, guys. I think it was a very interesting day with a very interesting discussion. And we'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 10. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.